Hi, everyone. I'm Evan Sherman from the Great River Tech Center in Quincy, Illinois. I'm from Quincy. I was born here and grew up here. And then right now I'm a freshman in community college, and I'm working in our HVAC program, so heating and air and refrigeration. And I'm still pretty involved in our tech center, and I'm signed up to go on a weekend in April. So.
Okay, great, Evan. Lizzie, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, I'm Lizzie. I'm from Bloomington Normal in Illinois, and I graduated from college. I went to Benedictine College and I graduated back in May. And I studied theology and philosophy. But during my time in college, I wasn't really involved with tech. I was involved with tech originally when I was in high school. I went on 2 weekends and then kind of fell away from it when I was in college. And now I'm going on another weekend again here in like 2 weeks. So that's me.
Great, Lizzie, appreciate that. Thank you. Ashley, would you go next, please?
Hi, y'all. My name is Ashley. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I currently go to school at the University of South Alabama in Mobile. My plan is to go to dental school, so I'm taking a lot of my prereqs for that. And I got involved with tech my senior year, going into senior year. I actually haven't worked one yet. But I did go on the young adult workshop in Chicago this past summer. So I'm really excited and looking forward to getting more involved and working more in the future very soon. That's me.
Thanks, Ashley. And Patrick.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much to Dennis and Billy for having us all here. This is really, really great. My name is Patrick. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. So North Coast Spirit Tech is the Diocese of Cleveland. I grew up there and first got involved in tech via my parents. You can see my dad is AJ Highland down there, who's joined us. I think my mom might be on that computer as well. My mom was involved with bringing North Coast Spirit Tech to our diocese way back in the day. From Wisconsin, I believe. And so I grew up hearing about tech and things like this. And then come high school, I was a junior. My mom invited me to go on a weekend, and then I remained involved, both working weekends and helping out with our tech board in Cleveland at our center for a couple of years. And I want to say I went on maybe 5 or 6 techs, including the one that I went on and those that I worked since. And now I'm in Washington, D.C. at the Catholic University of America. I'm a junior studying business and theology. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be here. Thank you guys for making the time for this.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. Let's jump right in. And the first topic will be that area of recruitment. And maybe if each of you could talk to your own experience of how you got recruited to make a tech weekend, and what was good about that process, and and was there another adult that walked with you? Was it friends? But how did you get initially involved with tech? And kind of what was that first weekend experience like for you? How about if we go, Ashley? Why don't you go first?
Yeah. So when I got involved with tech, I actually went to an all-girls Catholic private high school in New Orleans, and a lot of people had talked about it. A lot of people in my high school went. They didn't promote it within the school, but there were a lot of students as well as teachers that promoted it just like to us directly. And I think that was the main reason why and how I got involved, that personal connection with a teacher. It's great, when my friends went on it and they tell me about it because they talk about how much they loved it and how much I need to go on it. But when a mentor or a teacher, someone that I really looked up to, recommends that I go on this retreat and they contact me directly, Ashley, you love it. You'd love it. You need to go on this retreat. That really meant a lot to me personally, knowing that they were thinking about me and just being very intentional about that. So definitely that personal connection. And another big reason is the mystery behind tech. All my friends were like, we can't tell you much about it, but just know that you'll love it. Like, just give it a chance. Just go on this retreat. And I think that was just really intriguing to me because it wasn't like any retreat I had ever heard of. There were a lot of mysteries and surprises that I knew I could only experience if I went on it. So really that personal connection and just the mystery really intrigued me. And I'm very grateful that I went on it because it was an amazing experience that I'd recommend to anyone.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. Evan, would you be willing to go next and talk about your experience, how you got recruited to make a tech weekend?
Sure, Dennis. I went to a Catholic high school here in town, in Quincy, and we had a really great youth group there, with a lot of the tech family that participated. We had adults from our tech family helping, and then a lot of students that had been on techs and things like that. And it was just constant invitations to go on the next tech weekend. So I had a lot of friends telling me, and a lot of really great mentors telling me that I should go. And so I pulled the trigger, and I didn't regret it. So.
Okay, Evan, thank you. Patrick, would you be willing to go next?
Sure. So yeah, like I said, I was mainly brought into the tech world via my family, which is kind of the trend in my faith journey in general. I owe so much to both my parents and to my siblings and a lot of cousins. I've been blessed with a lot of great role models who, from an early age, modeled a joyful faith and an authentic faith in the home and everything that we did. And so the foundation was laid then once I got to high school, first watching my older sister make a tech retreat and have a good experience, and to see her return from that weekend with such joy and with a desire to go back and to serve as well. That certainly drew me in, but then it really was kind of a random turn of events where my mom just one day was like, this tech retreat's coming up, and I signed you up or something like that. And I was like, oh, cool. And I went in with very little expectations. I knew I didn't even know there were surprises. I knew that this was a great retreat that my mom really loved, and then once she married my dad, she kind of brought him into the world, and I knew my sister loved it. So I knew it was going to be good, but didn't really know what to expect, and was just struck immediately by the presence of other young people there who are engaged and alive in their faith and wanting to go deeper and wanting to pray. And then I think one of the other things that really struck me about my tech weekend was just the pervasive integration of the sacraments into everything that we did in the weekend. Everything was centered around the Eucharist and reconciliation, and those were kind of like the big moments in the weekend, and everything else kind of fit in around those. And then the last thing that I'll mention from that weekend was just the personal witness. When I made my tech, my older sister was serving on wheat for me and carrying a brick for me. So being able to see her and to witness that sacrifice and the love that she had for me was very, very powerful. And so all that is to say, I was kind of drawn in to tech through a very natural turn of events, I suppose, where it was bound to happen at some point, I guess. So yeah, I'm very blessed in that sense, and yeah.
Okay, great, Patrick. Thank you so much. Lizzie, would you go next, please?
Yeah. So my experience is pretty similar to Patrick's. Both of my parents are very involved with tech here in Bloomington. So for me, it was, similar, just kind of the natural progressive things. It was once I was 16, I'm going to tech. And yeah, I think that there were a few of my friends who were also going with me as well, and their parents were also involved with tech. So that was definitely something like an incentive for me to go. But yeah, I think overall my experience with my very first weekend was that I was kind of expecting to go and like know everything that was going on. But I didn't, and that was fun. Lots of surprises. Yeah, and then I think another thing is being able to go through that with my friends who also thought they knew what was going on. didn't really know what was going on the whole time either. Yeah, and overall, it was just kind of a really nice weekend of like peace that we could all just experience together. And again, a little bit different than what I was expecting, because from my perspective, it was, the wheat team and like doing all of the other behind the scenes things. So I thought that it was going to be like crazy busy all the time, but it was actually very restful, which was really, really good for me as a high schooler, like as a 16-year-old who was doing everything all the time, just to have a restful weekend at Tech, and to get to meet a bunch of new people as well. So that was kind of my experience.
Okay, Lizzie, thank you so much. Let's stay on that topic of recruitment. Each of you had your own experience of that. A couple of questions that came in around that is, one was, what kind of groups do young adults join today and why? The other part, as tech centers are coming back from post-COVID experience, I think all tech centers were closed down for a year, 2 years because of this diocesan policies. From a young adult perspective, what are things that can be done to be able to help with recruitment, especially that we have this lag time that, some of you talked about your friends were an integral part of why you made Tech family. But because that continuity has been lost, what are some things do you think would be good ways to help with recruitment? And what kind of groups do young adults, youth and young adults join, and why? Would anybody like to jump in and lead off on that one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm heavily involved with here at CUA is a program called Student Ministry. So I work for the Office of Campus Ministry. We have Dominican friars who are kind of our chaplains here, but then there's a group of us students who do a lot of work with different programming and events and ministry and things like that, primarily for the undergrad student body here. And we're encountering a lot of the same sorts of questions, just about how do you draw people in? How do you get them to commit to something and make an event a priority? Because the fact of the matter is we live in a world with just so much information and so many noises and things that are trying to grab our attention. So trying to get a freshman's attention for an hour on a Friday is a lot, much less to get a teenager to commit to a full weekend of retreat is certainly a task. And I think a big encouragement for me and something that's really helped is reframing like all of my mind, reframing my mindset of just like, oh, we got to nail the marketing and we got to nail the conversations and the execution of all these little things into a much more like apostolic framework. And so remembering that like before anything else, we're all called to be apostles, and returning to that like pretty clear command from Jesus to go forth and to proclaim the gospel. And when we do that and start to actually like form real relationships that are rooted in Christ, with our friends and for you for you all as leaders in your respective tech communities or in your parishes or whatever, by reaching young people and meeting them where they're at and accompanying them along the way and connecting with them in ways that they want to be connected with, you start to form those relationships of trust, kind of like we were saying a little bit ago, that then form the foundation for you to make an invitation, because people are a lot more likely to accept an invitation or take a risk or go somewhere if they know someone who's going to be there and if they trust the person that asked them. So those are the first things that kind of come to mind in terms of what helps people, draws people to thing. And then once you have that kind of meta mindset of just like, before anything else, I just need to bring Christ to the young people and live a life of prayer, then it's really important then to work really, really hard to nail the details, like just the logistics and have those little things buttoned up. Because as much as sometimes young people get get crap for being a little bit haphazard with stuff. We notice when things aren't taken care of and when people aren't being authentic or they're not taking things seriously. So taking the little things seriously and working hard to do your best while also relying on the Holy Spirit in that kind of apostolic sense, I think are the two big pillars for me.
Okay, Patrick, thank you. Who else would like to respond to that, the panel? Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah, I can go.
Okay, Ashley.
So something that I think would be beneficial is to kind of plant that seed at a young age of what tech is and what it's about. I know in New Orleans, CYOs are pretty big, just in different parishes. And I think just mentioning tech, although they wouldn't be able to go at a young age, even a 7th grader that might hear about it, that could go in the future, would be beneficial, just because I know for me, the more I heard about it, the more intrigued I became. And so the more I heard, the more I wanted to go on this retreat, just because I figured it was some sort of sign or something. It's like I keep hearing these things about tech, don't really know what it is. I keep hearing it though. I'm gonna take a chance and go on this retreat. So I think just mentioning it even at Sunday Mass or within CYO groups, even if it's like you can't go yet, but in the future, once you're in high school, in a few years, you can go on this amazing retreat. It just kind of plants that seed at a young age. And I think that's just a fundamental of recruiting, just like getting it in their head at a young age, what this is all about.
Any other advice you might have for leaders of tech centers in terms of that recruitment of young people, of youth or young adults? Lizzie or Evan, do you have anything you would like to add?
I just wanted to say I really agreed with Patrick and how young people can really spot when something's not quite authentic. And that's what I'm looking for when I join a group, is that authenticity and the passion in that authenticity, because you know that it's real. So I love to see it when people are showing me that it's real. And of course, this is one of the most real things that, well, tech is very real, but then in a greater sense, what tech brings to people, like the gospel and Jesus Christ, is the most real thing that you can get. So we have that authenticity. So then what I'm looking for is the passion behind it, because we know it's real. So
Okay, Evan, thanks.
Yeah, I just want to echo what those guys were saying as well. Definitely like the authenticity, the Christ-centered invitation, because ultimately what we're wanting from recruitment is just to spread the word. Something that has already been given to us has been spread to us, and we want to spread it even more, which is like the good news of Christ. And yeah, I think also just in my own experience with recruitment as well, in college, I was involved with campus ministry as well. And right now I'm a youth minister. So recruitment is still part of my life, and it's still difficult. But I think the number one thing that I've learned is to not like white knuckle it. If somebody is just like, I don't want to go, just like give them to the Holy Spirit, give them to God, pray about them, and just say, hey, you know what, Lord, if they're meant to go, you got to do it. I've done what I can do. If there's anything else you want me to do, let me know. But yeah, just pray for the people that you're recruiting. And that can seriously go such a long way.
Great. Thanks, Lizzie. I just want to reminder to those people who are participating tonight, if you got a question, put that in the chat area, and that'll get fed over to Troy and to Amanda for that second part of our time would be Q&A. Let's shift gears a little bit. And the second most frequent kind of question or area was that whole idea of commitment. A lot of times I think there's a challenge, excuse me, there's a challenge for young adults because their lives are busy. But the question that kind of came in around this is, what are some of the challenges of young people today in terms of making a commitment and then following through on that commitment? So maybe from your own experience of what are the things that you commit to, and what makes you follow through on that commitment as young adults?
Yeah, I think for me, the number one thing about when I'm about to make a commitment or a commitment is presented to me, um, there's an instant sense of fear, because, like you were saying, Dennis, we're all being pulled in like 10 million different directions. There's like kind of a sense of fear that I'm not choosing the right thing to do. I'm not choosing the right thing to commit to. What if my time could be better spent somewhere else, whatever. And I think especially with tech, since it's kind of a big commitment, like 3 days is kind of a lot for people nowadays. So I think that for me, the biggest thing is being assured that it is worth my time, because all of us know that tech is worth your time. The Lord is worth our time. But just affirming that is very helpful. And same deal with the follow through. I'm going to follow through on something that I know is worth it. And yeah, if it's worth it, it'll get done. So that's my opinion.
Okay, Lizzie, thanks. Any other panel members like to kind of talk about that from their own perspective about commitment and follow through?
Yeah, I feel like going off of what Lizzie said, it really is just as I've gotten older, I've realized, what I should prioritize. And sometimes I feel like it's harder for the younger age, because I know I struggled with it, to prioritize my faith. It was a priority, but like you said, weekend is a long time and there might be other plans or vacations and stuff like that. And just something as I've gotten older, I've realized, and going into college, that's why I decided to go on tech my senior year, just because I realized I want to keep this relationship with the Lord, in my life. And I know college is going to be a harder time to do that, and it'll be a lot more on my own. So I learned just personally, that I had to make this a priority, but it definitely comes with obviously a lot of practice and also a lot of guidance from mentors and just older people. So having that community around you that is going to push you, but also, like you said, not push you too much, kind of push you when you're ready to make that faith life a priority for you. But it's really different for everyone, and everyone has a different experience. Yeah, that was mine.
Okay, Ashley, thanks.
Yeah, another quick note on that. I think a big piece of my remaining committed to tech has been kind of the persistence and the flexibility of kind of the leaders in my tech community. So even something like this, obviously in college now, my capabilities to stay involved with our tech community back in Cleveland is limited. I can maybe work in the summer sometimes, but even that, like people in college have internships and different jobs and things that they might be pursuing. So I was drawn into this because one of our directors back home reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'd love to put you in contact with Dennis and Billy to make this happen." And so the commitment from her to stay in touch and to keep building that relationship over time, even when my commitment can't be working every single tech now. In Cleveland, we do 4 a year. I don't know what it's like in other places, but in high school, I was able to commit to at least one, maybe two every year, and now that's just not the case. So being able to stay flexible and to stay in contact so as to keep the relationship building, ultimately with the goal of the same thing happening to me, happening to other people and to other kids. Like my parents were hooked, and my mom was hooked and was really involved with tech, and then things in her life changed as she got married and started to have kids, and so they weren't able to remain as involved directly. But because of the relationships that they built and the experience that they had, which tech helps cultivate, it got to the point then once their kids were of the age to engage in the community, they were able to bring us there. And so that's the sort of commitment that you want. And I think the first step to building that is prayer, because I don't have a perfect plan or answer or roadmap to how to build that. But
Okay, Patrick, thanks. Evan, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize again what Patrick said about family as specifically the tech family as in the community. Um and how receiving support from them is really important, and it helps you when you're asked to go on another weekend or for the first time, if you do know those people and they've been there for you and everything, kind of like we've been saying the whole time, it's easier to commit and to go back. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Evan. What I was hearing is a couple, I think, important things, and Evan kind of summed it up, that there are people from the tech community that are inviting me to be on team, to make that commitment and are willing to walk with me, that they're helping me to understand that my presence is important. I'm just not plugging a hole or helping them reach the numbers, what they need, but that they help me understand that I have a significant contribution to make to the experience itself. So I appreciate it very, very much. Thanks. We're at that kind of halfway point on the two topics of either recruitment or in terms of commitment from the panel. Is there any comments you might want to add?
The last thought that just came to me is the uniqueness. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear some of the background noises. I live right next to the metro.
No, you're fine.
The train runs by every once in a while, but the emphasizing the uniqueness of serving on a tech weekend. So like you if you make the retreat your first time, then you can come back and obviously help work and serve, which I have found to be as fruitful an experience of being able to create that environment for the techites, and have encountered the Lord countless times through that. And so communicating to techites that like, this isn't just like a one-time retreat. This is an opportunity to keep going deeper with the Lord, and to draw more people into that is something that I think is really important.
Thanks. Any other last comment before we move on to the Q&A? Okay, I'm going to rely on Troy and Amanda to feed me any questions that we might have from the comments or the questions that participants have this evening. And then it'll be open to any of the members of the panel to respond to that. So Troy or Amanda, do we have anything at this point?
Not at this point, unless Troy has some that I can't see.
Yeah, I have one very practical question. But what are productive, good ways, best practices for communicating with teens, young adults, the target audience of tech?
So the whole idea of communication and letting them know about tech or team experiences and stuff. So what works best for you?
Yeah, I think in person is still the most effective way. So as much as possible, creating like personal connections where you can talk about tech, but then obviously you can't do that all the time. So meeting people where they're at on social media, as annoying as it can be sometimes, having some kind of presence either on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is, to communicate information. Email groups and things like that can be effective, although sometimes email gets a little cluttered for us, especially when we're in school. But I think that's where you can kind of get creative and take all avenues to try to reach people and hope that one of them gets through.
I found working with this panel, texting was the quickest and best. Emails got lost. And I think that's the other part for us who are older in this movement, to realize that we might have to rely on young adults to help us know the mediums that work best as well. Yeah. Any other ways of communication that you think might be helpful?
I just wanted to kind of piggyback here. The texting is great, for like a practical purpose, especially when you're trying to reach a lot of people fast. But I really think that nothing beats word of mouth, even to young people and high school students and everything. Nothing beats it. It's the only way you're really going to get that nice personal connection that you want when recruiting. But yeah, if we're talking from like a logistics standpoint, then I'd say, yeah, texting probably, but once again, the word of mouth, you can't beat it.
Good. Lizzie, or, okay,
Yeah. So I know that we like kind of already talked about this a little bit, but definitely word of mouth for sure. I think that it's always a good idea to try and get in touch with either like teachers from the local Catholic school, if you have one. If not, like your youth minister, somebody who is in touch with like the high school students, or if you have like a niece or nephew who's in high school and you know that they're committed to tech or something like that, like ask them to ask their friends. Because I think it always means more when the message comes from somebody who's already kind of in their age group or like a little bit closer with them. Yeah, I think that will always, every day of the week, beat out Instagram or, Twitter, whatever. Even though they're on Instagram all the time, they aren't usually on Instagram looking for what am I going to do for a retreat this weekend. They're on Instagram to see what their friends are doing. And if their friends are going on the retreat, then they'll go. But like they were saying, it is always good to at least like put it out there on Instagram. But like, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you have like a stellar Instagram, your best bet is still gonna be asking people in person.
thanks. Do we have another question, Troy or Amanda?
I don't at this time.
I do this time.
Okay, Amanda.
So a question was from somebody. I was wondering about what their thoughts are on best fourth date activities, what they find best to keep young adults and youth engaged between weekends.
I'm trying to think of what our communities have done over the years. I know we've had a variety of different sort of activities. Our tech center does a comeback night, so like a week after the retreat. I don't know if that's standard kind of across the board, but just a week out to draw everybody back together from the tech weekend. And even if not everybody can come, I think they're really cool opportunities for because you go on this retreat and you make all these friends and you all get really close really fast. I found with my weekend, like it just accelerates the relationship building because you're in kind of a vulnerable and trusting environment, and then so to kind of get catapulted back into the rest of your life, it's nice to kind of have a retreat after the retreat to kind of retreat back into this group and kind of regroup and reflect on the weekend. And I think you can get creative with that. We've done bonfires and like hot cocoa bars and sundae, like ice cream sundae bars. And I think that's an area where you can rely on the young people who are helping with the teams and stuff like that to come up with some ideas that we'll connect with and kind of garner some engagement from the other young people. So.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Other ideas about follow-up to tech, besides working on team, is there other things that you participated in, or after you made your tech, you wished there would have been something more? Evan, do you want to jump in? Okay.
Yep. So in our tech center, it's sort of a tradition to have a reunion right before the next tech. So we have about 6 techs a year. So it leaves at least 1 month, and a lot of times it's a couple more. So we'll get together right before the next tech, and it's so nice because you get to see all your friends that you made, and then you remember how great that weekend was, because you know how you get off the tech weekend and it takes like a week for you to process that in your brain, you know. So then sometimes you just get busy with your life, and then you go back and you see all these faces that have affected you, and it brings it all back. And I love that so much. I just recently had a tech reunion, and it was just amazing to see all my friends, and I was a resource table leader, and I got to see my table again, and it was great. And then also something we do is monthly adoration, and I recently just took advantage of that, and I really appreciated it. I hadn't been before, but it was really nice. It's just another chance, just like tech, to take some time out of our busy lives and slow down, because that's something we all love about tech, is that it's a time for us to slow down. So it brought that to my life very recently, and it was really nice. So
Evan, thanks. Any other?
Yeah, I can
Ashley?
go. We have an event, we call it Fiat, and it's actually just a night for us to come together. We have adoration, confession, worship, and then like social afterwards. I don't think it's on like the fourth day, but it's pretty close after. And then we do it throughout the year as well. And like Evan said, it's just a way for us to all like kind of see each other again. And it's a way for people that didn't go on that weekend to come back and just welcome the new Techites. And it's just really or Hooties, it's an awesome experience for everyone. But I'd also want to add that even if it's something small, you know, sometimes I feel like we feel like we needed to have this big event and this big thing that we have to host for everyone to reunite. But even if it's a small, hey, a group of us are going to mass or adoration, or a group of us are going to dinner or to get a snowball, whatever it is, just when you're with that tech community, that's all that matters. You know, it doesn't have to be a huge thing for it to be special. The huge things are great. The big planned things and reunions are awesome, but just those little things are just as important. And I think it's just all at the end of the day about being intentional. And even if it's not a huge turnout, the few people that went got something out of it. So that's all that matters.
Thank you, Ashley. Lizzie, anything you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, sure.
But of course.
So yeah, our tech community we honestly don't really do a whole lot, like between tech weekends. But like all of the things that the other panelists have said, I think they all sound really great. And yeah, I agree with Ashley. It doesn't really matter how big the thing is. Like, I don't know, I feel like if somebody just kind of texted in like a little group and was just like, hey, does anybody want to go to Dairy Queen tonight? Like, yeah, sure, I'll go to Dairy Queen. I'll get some ice cream tonight. Yeah, I think that that is so important, because I think we all kind of have experienced like the retreat high before. And then sometimes it feels like there's a sort of crash afterwards. And I think that being able to stay connected with the people that you went on retreat with is really important, especially if there might be a few people within like your tech weekend that maybe that was like their first retreat ever. I think it's always so important to just be like, hey, like we're going to have a bonfire tonight. If anybody wants to come, no pressure. We're going to have s'mores, whatever. Yeah, I think that is a very beneficial thing.
Great. Thank you. And that could be, you know, on a local level too. It doesn't have to necessarily be on the diocesan level as well. Let's check in with Amanda and try see if there's any other questions that's come up.
Well, I had somebody in the comments ask straight to Ashley, what is a snowball?
Yeah, I realized after I should have, you know, said something else, but in New Orleans, it's basically like a snow cone. It's like ice, but it's really soft with the sweet syrup on it. There's snowball stands at like every corner in New Orleans and Metairie. So it's the perfect like summer treat when it's super, super hot. But even just ice cream or Dairy Queen, yeah, that works too.
In Minnesota, that gets translated into a snowball fight, that'd be another good, fun activity as well. One question that came in the surveys that came in with the registration was if you would be willing to speak to your own experience about your own faith life. And, as a young adult, what are some practices or disciplines that you have in your life that help you to continue to grow in your faith? If any of you would be willing to just address that. I know it's kind of personal and you can always opt out, but what are some things that you do as young adults to be attentive to your faith as young adults?
I'll go ahead. And
Okay, Evan.
something that I've discovered in high school, really, I started going to daily mass before school. And we in Quincy, we have a 6:30 mass, 6:30 a.m. And that's sort of a practice and a discipline when you're getting up that early to go to mass. And it was really special. It helped focus my day in, even if I only made it once or twice that week. I still try to make it to as many as I can. But that's just one of my favorite practices personally. So
Okay, Evan, thanks. Lizzie, it looks like you had something you wanted to share.
Yeah. I think so for me, that's kind of like changed like just over the course of my life. But I think currently, so I am not an early riser at all. So early mass just does not work for me, and that is okay. But I do try to go to mass and the evening masses whenever I can. And then on top of that, I just love adoration. Just some time in silence is really good for me. Time to just kind of read scripture, or like maybe a spiritual book or something like that. But yeah, I think that those are kind of the main things that I do. Yeah, outside of that, just kind of like talking with family or friends just about like where I'm at in my faith life and everything like that is always really great for me, like for accountability and stuff like that. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Lizzie. Ashley?
Going off of that, I definitely think community is important. I try to push myself. I feel like sometimes I think or I feel like I can do it all on my own. I can read the Bible on my own, but definitely having those people that hold me accountable, going to a Bible study with other people, stuff like that, going on retreats with other people, having that group of people my age as well, people that are going through the same struggles as me that I can talk with. But I also do think it's important to spend my own time. I start my day, I read my Bible, and it's just a good practice and discipline that I've learned that just gets me going. And whatever happened the day before, all the stuff I have to do later, I'm able to kind of center myself and focus, and kind of helps me remember what's important in my life. And it's a great start to my day. And another thing, just through my own journey that I've realized, I was talking about this recently, but I always have the question of like what comes first, whether it's action or intention. And sometimes I have the intention that I want to do all these things, but it kind of makes me delay when I say go on this retreat or take this next step in my faith. And I think something that's important to me is to realize that I don't have to check off all these boxes in order to be like ready for this retreat or ready for this anything that involves my faith. So just realizing that I'm not perfect and I'm going to make mistakes along the way is okay, because we have to come as we are. And, sometimes I just have to not make myself, but I push myself to go to an extra mass throughout the week or adoration, stuff like that. Even when I feel like I'm not, checking off the boxes. I think that's just something I have to remind myself.
Ashley, I appreciate that input that you had in terms of that maybe as the adult community, as we work with young adults, is that you don't have to have all the boxes checked, come as you are. And that's good. That's good enough. I appreciate that. Patrick?
Yeah,
Did you
before I speak a little bit about my own experience, just to keep going off of that kind of line of thinking, I have heard so many times, whether in tech or in a theology class or in a parish or any sort of setting, as a young person in the church, like a speaker or somebody say, like, you young people, you guys aren't the church of tomorrow, you're the church of today, which is absolutely true. But there have certainly been times where I have wanted to say back, you are too, you're not the church of yesterday, you're the church of today too. And so that is to say, not like, and the very fact that you all are sitting on this phone call is evidence that I think you get it and are committed to living this life of faith. So I thank you for that, and for sustaining our church in prayer, and for leading your various communities. But I think it's always important for me, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Before you all came on, we were talking. I just got back from a silent retreat this past weekend. I was in a Cistercian monastery in the middle of Virginia, with campus ministry here at CUA, and had a great weekend, just kind of reflecting and thinking a lot about this very question. And so it's a good reminder for all of us to take that time and pray about our own spiritual journeys. But all that is to say, for me, a good image that I've always kind of held in my head when thinking about my prayer life or my spiritual life is a story that I heard on a different retreat when I was back in 8th grade getting ready for confirmation. It's a fairly common story, I think, but it goes, it follows a professor who's teaching a class, and he gets up in front of the class with a big bucket and places the bucket on the table, and then slowly grabs big rocks from under the desk and puts them in the bucket until it's filled to the top with these big rocks. And he asks the class, like, is the bucket full? And everyone's like, yes. And he chuckles a little bit, reaches back under the desk and pulls out smaller rocks and starts to shove them in the cracks in between the big rocks until it's full of small rocks. And he's like, is the bucket full? And they're like, yes, but slightly more hesitantly. At which point he reaches under the desk, pulls out sand and pours sand in between the cracks until it like fills the top. And he's like, is the bucket full? And at this point, the students are catching on. So they say no. And then he pulls out water and fills it up to the top with water. The point being, if he were to start with water, he wasn't going to be able to get the big rocks in. So the lesson is to put those big rocks in first and make those big things a priority. So whether it's faith and family or your studies or whatever it is for your vocation, wherever you're at in life. But I think I take a little bit of a different twist on it and would say and reflect on my own life that I want the faith to be the bucket that's holding everything else. And so the question isn't like, what's your prayer life or what's your spiritual life, but just what's your life. And so I strive every day to root myself in spiritual practices and meditative prayer and the sacraments and going to mass and reading scripture. But that's all for the end of integrating my faith into everything. So whether I'm in class or playing basketball or goofing around with my friends, all of it is transformed into a prayer when done in communion and in an awareness of the Holy Spirit's presence all around you. So I think it's a combination of doing the things that the church has given us to deepen your spiritual life, while also just living a free and authentic life and trusting the Lord in every step of the way.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. That brings us to our time this evening. I just want to thank the panel. Thank you so very, very much. You did a great service to the Tech Conference, and we really appreciate that. Your insights, your witness as well. We appreciate that. I know it will be helpful for the tech communities throughout the country and throughout the world, that those people who are going to be able to walk away from this and reflect on what you've said and maybe get some insight to what they can do back home as well. Again, round of applause for y'all. Thank you. I will give it over to Billy, who will end our session this evening.
And Troy, I'm going to try to share my screen This will help keep me on track here. I've got my little, well, my screen doesn't freeze up too badly on me here. Here, my updates. Yeah, thanks, Evan, Ashley, Patrick, Lizzie. You guys are just incredible. This was excellent tonight. Dennis and the formation and enrichment team, thanks for kind of coming up with this idea and seeing it all the way through. And I don't know if everyone realizes there's all these different little ministry teams that serve tech internationally. You know, they do things for tech communities and for the tech conference, very often without me being, you know, intricately involved. So this is a great project that Dennis and their team ran with, and there's more to come from them and from many other ministry teams. So a couple of little updates. I promise I'll be very fast here. I just wanted to congratulate publicly. I don't know if we have anyone on from these tech communities, but every year we invite gifts from anyone and then make gifts to the larger tech community. So a grant, a Garricky grant named for our co-founder Dorothy for $1,000 is being made to Wichita Tech from the tech conference right now. They lost their ability to have retreats at their retreat center where they've always done their techs. So they started doing them at these two parishes, but they are not dignified shower facilities at these two parishes. And so the priests there are allowing them to do a little, you know, construction renovation in the areas where there could be showers. And so we're chipping in with some seed money to help them make that a reality so that those can be kind of home for tech going forward. And then a new program that we just launched this year called the Enrichment Exchange takes a person from one tech community, a leader in a tech community, and gives them a chance to go make a tech weekend somewhere else in the country, so that besides just kind of seeing how other people do it, which is kind of neat and interesting to see and broadening, but also you make friends and build these bonds. And that was Dorothy was all about. So Jerry Langworthy from Riverbend Tech in Minnesota is going down to Florida to make a tech at Sunshine Tech in Miami later this year. So congratulations to Jerry, and we're going to help him afford the travel for that. The deadlines for Garricky grant and enrichment exchange applications is the end of the year every year, and then we make our selection and awards in January. Okay, next slide. Dennis and his team, the formation and enrichment team, they're hosting a virtual Stations of the Cross on March the 23rd at 7 p.m. Central. So if you want to come and just pray and enjoy some fellowship and prayer with people from tech from around the world, that's the next time we're doing something like that. A number of people here today were on a young adult workshop that we hosted in Chicago in June, and that's our group shot there. So we're doing it again, but the team has been kind of praying about what do we want this to become. And it's not exactly a workshop, not quite a retreat. And so we've rechristened it going forward, the St. Therese Institute. St. Therese is our patron saint for tech. When she died, she was still a young adult. And she had a certain leadership style of finding little ways to encourage others, little ways to be virtuous. And so we really want to focus this gathering on young and upcoming leaders in tech communities. We want to make it possible for them to be there. So we've put a bunch of money into it. And if the folks who are here that came to it, I'll bet you didn't spend a whole lot to get there. You got reimbursed for your airfare, your travel. Some of you might have even profited off of the tech conference by coming to this thing. But truly, $40 registration, and then your travel gets reimbursed at the end. So we're going to focus on leadership formation, spiritual formation, and formation in tech. And there's just lots of great fellowship and fun that happens along the way as well. So look for that. That's coming up in June. Registration's not open yet, but it's going to be at the same location in Chicago at St. Benedict University, or Benedictine University in Lisle, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. Our annual gathering is called Tech Encounter. This year it's in DeWitt, Michigan at the St. Francis Retreat Center, which is where Father Matt, our founder, the fella in the bottom right, that's where he lives, in a retirement house with other retired priests on the grounds of this retreat center. So he can't travel anymore and hasn't for a while. He's in his 90s. And this is a way for us to come to him. So if that would be exciting for you, like it was for me when I first did a thing outside of my home tech community to meet the founder of Tech, he's just an incredible guy, just an incredible guy. I don't know how to, go further than that without spending too much more time. Our theme this year is rooted in faith. The gospel that weekend is the sower and the seed. And of course, like seeds and grains of wheat are real big in Tech. And so we thought, let's go with roots. We're going to kind of where Tech was founded in Michigan. The founder is there. So there's a lot of root and seed imagery going on this year that we're going to mine. Our keynote speaker is going to be Bishop John Ifford, who's the Bishop of Covington, Kentucky. And he's our new Episcopal moderator. He made Tech as a young man, and it impacted his vocation story broadly and specifically toward the priesthood. And now he's a bishop in Covington, Kentucky. So he's going to come both celebrate Eucharist with us and present the keynote while we're there. And I don't know, it's going to be awesome. So another thing to put on your calendar this summer. And then let's see. Oh, and that is my last slide. So I did good. I went quicker than I even thought I would. So thanks again, Dennis and the team. And yeah, Patrick, Lizzie, Evan, Ashley, you guys are incredible. And I'm going to stop my share right there.
And thanks for everyone who participated this evening. We were so happy to have you join us. And if you have any feedback, feel free to do that back to Billy or myself at the Tech Conference. So we appreciate that. Shall we end in prayer, or how about we do the prayer of Teresa of Lisieux, and that'll be our closing prayer tonight. And so this prayer is attributed to St. Teresa of Lisieux. May today there be peace within. May you trust God that you are exactly where you are meant to be. May you not forget the infinite possibilities that are born of faith. May you use those gifts that you have received and pass on the love that has been given to you. May you be content knowing you are a child of God. Let this presence settle into your bones and allow your soul the freedom to sing, to dance, to praise, and to love. It is there for each and every one of us. Saint Teresa of Lisieux, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God bless. Have a good evening now. And thank you again to the panel.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Good
Thank you.
night.
Thank you. And
Right, thanks.
to Dennis and Billy.
Thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Thanks, Troy. Great job.
Patrick, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Bye now.
Lizzie, thank you so much as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Bye, thanks.
So Troy and yeah, okay. And Billy, just to touch base to see if there's anything we need, and Amanda, if we need to.
No, great job. Just beautiful job. I thought I was just so pleased with how it went. Wonderful turnout,
Okay.
the whole thing. Yeah, you're right, Dennis. Just 4 good ones we got there. 4 real thoughtful young people.
And hopefully it came across as a nice conversation tonight, because when we talked last week, it seemed, I said, they just flew off each other so well now.
So there was 19.
Huh?
That,
Present?
however, I'm not for sure. There was one that popped up as an SMM council meeting. So I'm not for sure if that was just one person or if it was multiple.
Yeah, I
At a
don't know. I
council
took a picture and sent it to Erica at some point. It was showing 26 participants.
Well, that was, I didn't count us 4 and the 4 panelists.
Well, I would count.
Oh.
For attendance. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in
Okay.
this conversation, I mean, I have it wrote down. I know Troy was supposed to be doing it, but I did it also.
Yeah, so Bill,
Right,
if you
right.
look at the response spreadsheet, you should see my notes of who showed up.
Okay. Thanks for doing that. That's great.
Billy,
And-
would it be good to send out an evaluation?
Yeah, we can do that.
And maybe in that, so that for planning for next year for the 2 formation, pieces, maybe ask what people would like us to address as the formation enrichment committee. So that we can start setting up our calendar, get that to you and to Janelle, so that you get that in plenty of time.
Okay,
You know, another thought that I had, Billy,
it's not,
was that one of them or two of them would be really good as MCs.
yeah. Well, Lizzie did it this past year, but you
Right.
know, any of the other three, I think, would be very capable.
I just
I-
thought of that. I was like,
I couldn't agree more. And
And I thought Evan and Patrick would be great candidates for the St. Teresa of the Sewer Institute.
oh yeah, I'd love to have them
So
come in.
maybe we can, yeah, work. I'll keep in contact with them.
That's
Yeah,
right.
They've been fun to work with.
Well, I
It's a
sent each of them a
personal
little private.
contact, Dennis.
Pardon, Troy?
It's a personal contact, that personal invitation that's important.
Of course. Good. Thank you,
All right,
Troy, for
Joe.
everything.
Well-
Amanda, thanks for helping with the question piece.
no problem.
And I think the fact that we got the questions out ahead of time, maybe it was a good way of doing that. The panel